Chapter 12. Fire Attack. There are 5 kinds of fire attack. Burning people, burning supplies, burning equipment, burning storehouses, and burning weapons. The use of fire must have a basis and requires certain tools. There are appropriate times for setting fires, namely when the weather is dry and windy. Generally, in fire attacks, it is imperative to follow up on the crises caused by the fires. When fire is set inside an enemy camp, then respond quickly from outside. If the soldiers are calm when fire breaks out, wait, do not attack. When the fire reaches the height of its power, follow up if possible. Hold back if not. In general, fire is used to throw enemies into confusion so that you can attack them. When fire can be set out in the open, do not wait until it can be set inside a camp. Set it when the time is right. When fire is set upwind, do not attack downwind. It is not effective to go against the momentum of the fire, because the enemy will surely fight to the death. If it is windy during the day, the wind will stop at night. A daytime wind will stop at night. A night wind will stop at daylight. Armies must know there are adaptations of the 5 kinds of fire attack and adhere to them scientifically. It will not do just to know how to attack others with fire. It is imperative to know how to prevent others from attacking you. So the use of fire to help an attack means clarity. Use of water to help an attack means strength. Water can cut off, but cannot plunder. Water can be used to divide up an opposing army, so that their force is divided and yours is strong. To win in battle, or make a successful siege, without rewarding the meritorious, is unlucky, and earns the name of stinginess. Therefore it is said that an enlightened government considers this, and good military leadership rewards merit. They do not mobilize when there is no advantage, do not attack when there is nothing to gain, do not fight when there is no danger. Armaments are instruments of ill omen. War is a dangerous affair. It is imperative to prevent disastrous defeat, so it will not do to mobilize an army for petty reasons. Arms are only to be used when there is no choice but to do so. A government should not mobilize an army out of anger. Military leaders should not provoke war out of wrath. Act when it is beneficial. Desist if it is not. Anger can revert to joy. Wrath can revert to delight. But a nation destroyed cannot be restored to existence, and the dead cannot be restored to life. Therefore, an enlightened government is careful about this. A good military leadership is alert to this. This is the way to secure a nation and keep the armed forces whole. If the government is always prudent about the use of arms, it can thereby make the nation secure. If military leadership is always wary of taking war lightly, it can therefore keep the armed forces whole. Chapter 10. Terrain. Some terrain is easily passable. In some, you get hung up. Some makes for a standoff. Some is narrow. Some is steep. Some is wide open. When both sides can come and go, the terrain is said to be easily passable. When the terrain is easily passable, take up your position first, choosing the high and sunny side, convenient to supply routes, for advantage in battle. When you can go but have a hard time getting back, you are said to be hung up. On this type of terrain, if the opponent is unprepared, you will prevail if you go forth. either side to go forth, it is called standoff terrain. On standoff terrain, even though the opponent offers you an advantage, you do not go for it. You withdraw, inducing the enemy half out, and then you attack, to your advantage. On narrow terrain, if you are there first, you should fill it up to await the opponent. If the opponent is there first, do not pursue if the opponent fills the narrows. Pursue if the opponent does not fill the narrows. On steep terrain, if you are there first, you should occupy the high and sunny side to await the opponent. If the opponent is there first, withdraw from there and do not pursue. On wide open terrain, the force of momentum is equalized, and it is hard to make a challenge, disadvantageous to fight. Understanding these 6 kinds of terrain is the highest responsibility of the general, and it is imperative to examine them. These are the configurations of terrain. Generals who do not know them lose. So among military forces, there are those who rush, those who tarry, those who fall, those who crumble, those who riot, and those who get beaten. These are not natural disasters, but faults of the generals. Those who have equal momentum, but strike 10 with 1, are in a rush. Those whose soldiers are strong, but whose officers are weak, tarry. Those whose officers are strong, but whose soldiers are weak, fall. When colonels are angry and obstreperous, and fight on their own out of spite when they meet opponents, and the generals do not know their abilities, they crumble. Generally speaking, the entire military leadership has to be of one mind. All the military forces have to cooperate in order to be able to defeat opponents. When the generals are weak and lack authority, instructions are not clear. Officers and soldiers lack consistency, and they form battle lines every which way. This is riot. When the generals cannot assess opponents, clash with much greater numbers or more powerful forces, and do not sort out the levels of skill among their own troops, these are the ones who get beaten. If you employ soldiers without sorting out the skilled and unskilled, the brave and the timid, you are bringing defeat on yourself. These are 6 ways to defeat. Understanding this is the ultimate responsibility of the generals. They must be examined. First is not assessing numbers. Second is lack of a clear system of punishments and rewards. Third is failure in training. Fourth is irrational overexcitement. Fifth is ineffectiveness of law and order. And sixth is failure to choose the strong and resolute. The contour of the land is an aid to an army. Sizing up opponents to determine victory, assessing dangers and distances, is the proper course of action for military leaders. Those who do battle knowing these will win. Those who do battle without knowing these will lose. Therefore, when the laws of war indicate certain victory, it is surely appropriate to do battle, even if the government says there is to be no battle. If the laws of war do not indicate victory, it is appropriate not to do battle, even if the government orders war. Thus, one advances without seeking glory, retreats without avoiding blame, only protecting people to the benefit of the government as well, thus rendering valuable service to the nation. Advancing and retreating contrary to government orders is not done for personal interest, but only to safeguard the lives of the people and accord with the true benefit of the government. Such loyal employees are valuable to a nation. Look upon your soldiers as you do infants, and they willingly go into deep valleys with you, upon your soldiers as beloved children, and they willingly die with you. If you are so nice to them that you cannot employ them, so kind to them that you cannot command them, so casual with them that you cannot establish order, they are like spoiled children, useless. Rewards should not be used alone. Punishments should not be relied on in isolation. Otherwise, like spoiled children, people will become accustomed to either enjoying or resenting everything. This is harmful and renders them useless. If you know your soldiers are capable of striking, but do not know whether the enemy is invulnerable to a strike, you have half a chance of winning. If you know the enemy is vulnerable to a strike, but do not know if your soldiers are incapable of making such a strike, you have half a chance of winning. If you know the enemy is vulnerable to a strike, and know your soldiers can make the strike, but do not know if the lay of the land makes it unsuitable for battle, you have half a chance of winning. Therefore, those who know martial arts do not wander when they move, and do not become exhausted when they rise up. So it is said that when you know yourself and others, victory is not in danger. When you know sky and earth, victory is inexhaustible. When you know what is to others' advantage and what is to your advantage, you are not in danger. When you know the season and the terrain, you do not come to an impasse. Chapter 9. Maneuvering Armies. Whenever you station an army to observe an opponent, cut off the mountains and stay by the valleys. Watch the light. Stay on the heights. When fighting on a hill, do not climb. This applies to an army in the mountains. One version says, fight going down, not climbing up. When cut off by water, always stay away from the water. Do not meet them in the water. It is advantageous to let half of them cross, and then attack them. When you want to fight, do not face an enemy near water. Watch the light. Stay in high places. Do not face the current of the water. This applies to an army on water. In a river basin, your armies can be flooded out, and poison can be put in the streams. Facing the current means heading against the flow. It also means your boats should not be moored downstream, lest the enemy ride the current right over you. Go right through salt marshes. Just go quickly and do not tarry. If you run into an army in the middle of the salt marsh, stay by the water plants, with your back to the trees. This applies to an army in a salt marsh. On a level plateau, take up positions where it is easy to maneuver, keeping higher land to your right rear, with low ground in front and high ground behind. This applies to an army on a plateau. It was by taking advantage of the situation in these four basic ways that the Yellow Emperor overcame four lords. All martial arts began with the Yellow Emperor, a Taoist ruler of late prehistoric times, circa 2400 BCE, so he is mentioned here. Ordinarily, an army likes high places and dislikes low ground, values light and despises darkness. High places are exhilarating, so people are comfortable, and they are also convenient for the force of momentum. Low ground is damp, which promotes illness and makes it hard to fight. Take care of physical health, and stay where there are plenty of resources. When there is no sickness in the army, it is said to be invincible. Where there are hills or embankments, keep on their sunny side, with them to your right rear. This is an advantage to a military force, the help of the land. Advantage in military operation is getting help from the land. When it rains upstream and froth is coming down on the current, you want to cross, wait until it settles. Whenever the terrain has impassable ravines, natural enclosures, natural prisons, natural traps, natural pitfalls, and natural clefts, you should leave quickly and not get near them. For myself, I keep away from these, so that opponents are nearer to them. I keep my face to these, so that opponents have their backs to them. Then you have the advantage, and he is out of luck. When an army is traveling, if there is hilly territory with many streams and ponds, or depressions overgrown with reeds, or wild forests with a luxuriant growth of plants and trees, it is imperative to search them carefully and thoroughly, for these afford stations for bushwhackers and spoilers. It is imperative to dismount and search, lest there be ambush troops hiding in such places. Also, there is concern that spies might be lurking there, watching you and listening to your directives. When the enemy is near, but still, he is resting on a natural stronghold. When he is far away, but tries to provoke hostilities, he wants you to move forward. If his position is accessible, it is because it is advantageous to him. What this means is that if an opponent does not keep a position on a natural stronghold, but stations himself in a convenient place, it must be because there is some practical advantage in doing so. When the trees move, the enemy is coming. When there are many blinds in the undergrowth, it is misdirection. The idea of making many blinds in the underbrush is to make you think there might be bushwhackers hidden behind them. If birds start up, there are ambushers there. If the animals are frightened, there are attackers there. If dust rises high and sharp, vehicles are coming. If it is low and wide, foot soldiers are coming. Scattered wisps of smoke indicate woodcutters. Relatively small amounts of dust coming and going indicate setting up camp. Those whose words are humble while they increase war preparations are going to advance. Those whose words are strong and who advance aggressively are going to retreat. If his emissaries come with humble words, send spies to observe him, and you will find that the enemy is increasing his preparations. When light vehicles come out first and stay to the sides, they are going to set up a battle line. Those who come seeking peace without a treaty are plotting. Those who busily set out arrays of armed vehicles are expecting reinforcements. They wouldn't rush around for an ordinary rendezvous. There must be a distant force expected at a certain time, when they will join forces to come and attack you. It is best to prepare for this right away. If half their force advances and half retreats, they are trying to lure you. They feign confusion and disorder to lure you into moving forward. If they brace themselves as they stand, they are starving. When those sent to draw water first drink themselves, they are thirsty. When they see an advantage but do not advance on it, they are weary. If birds are gathered there, the place has been vacated. If there are birds on a citadel, the army has fled. If there are coals in the night, they are afraid. They are fearful and uneasy, so they call to each other to strengthen themselves. If the army is unsettled, it means the general is not taken seriously. If signals move, that means they are in confusion. Signals are used to unify the group, so if they move about unsteadily, it means the ranks are in disarray. If their emissaries are irritable, it means they are tired. If they kill their horses for meat, it means that the soldiers have no food. When they have no pots and do not go back to their quarters, they are desperate adversaries. When there are murmurings, lapses in duties, and extended conversations, the loyalty of the group has been lost. Murmurings describe talk of true feelings. Lapses in duties indicate trouble with superiors. When the military leadership has lost the people's loyalty, they talk to each other frankly about the trouble with their superiors. When they give out numerous rewards, it means they are at an impasse. When they give out numerous punishments, it means they are worn out. When the force of their momentum is exhausted, they give repeated rewards to please their soldiers, lest they rebel en masse. When people are so worn out that they cannot carry out orders, they are punished again and again to establish authority. To be violent at first, and wind up fearing one's people, is the epitome of ineptitude. Those who come in a conciliatory manner want to rest. When forces angrily confront you, but delay engagement, yet do not leave, it is imperative to watch them carefully. They are preparing a surprise attack. In military matters, it is not necessarily beneficial to have more strength, only to avoid acting aggressively. It is enough to consolidate your power, assess opponents, and get people. That is all. The individualist without strategy, who takes opponents lightly, will inevitably become the captive of others. If you have no ulterior scheme and no forethought, but just rely on your individual bravery, flippantly taking opponents lightly and giving no consideration to the situation, you will surely be taken prisoner. If soldiers are punished before a personal attachment to the leadership is formed, they will not submit. And if they do not submit, they are hard to employ. If punishments are not executed after personal attachment has been established with the soldiers, then they cannot be employed. When there are underlying feelings of appreciation and trust, and the hearts of the soldiers are already bonded to the leadership, if punishments are relaxed, the soldiers will become haughty and impossible to employ. Therefore, direct them through cultural arts. Unify them through martial arts. This means certain victory. Cultural art means humaneness. Martial art means law. Command them humanely and benevolently. Unify them strictly and sternly. When benevolence and sternness are both evident, it is possible to be sure of victory. When directives are consistently carried out to edify the populace accepts. When directives are not consistently carried out to edify the populace does not accept. When directives are consistently carried out, there is mutual satisfaction between the leadership and the group. Consistent means all along. In ordinary times, it is imperative that benevolence and trustworthiness, along with dignity and order, be manifest to people from the start, so that later, if they are faced with enemies, it is possible to meet the situation in an orderly fashion, with the full trust and acceptance of the people. Chapter 5. Force. Governing a large number, as though governing a small number, is a matter of division into groups. Battling a large number, as though battling a small number, is a matter of forms and calls. Forms and calls refer to the formations and signals used to dispose troops and coordinate movements. Making the armies able to take on opponents without being defeated is a matter of unorthodox and orthodox methods. Orthodoxy and unorthodoxy are not fixed, but are like a cycle. Emperor Taisong of the Tang dynasty, a famous warrior and administrator, spoke of manipulating opponents' perceptions of what is orthodox and what is unorthodox, then attacking unexpectedly, combining both into one, becoming inscrutable to opponents. For the impact of armed forces to be like stones thrown on eggs is a matter of emptiness and fullness. When you induce opponents to come to you, then their force is always empty. As long as you do not go to them, your force is always full. Attacking emptiness with fullness is like throwing stones on eggs. The eggs are sure to break. In battle, confrontation is done directly. Victory is gained by surprise. Therefore, those skilled at the unorthodox are infinite as heaven and earth, inexhaustible as the great rivers. When they come to an end, they begin again, like the days and months. They die and are reborn, like the four seasons. Sun and moon travel through the sky. They set and rise again. The four seasons succeed one another, flourishing and then fading again. This is a metaphor for the interchange of surprise, unorthodox movements and orthodox direct confrontation, mixing together into a whole, ending and beginning infinitely. There are only 5 notes in the musical scale, but their variations are so many that they cannot all be heard. There are only 5 basic colors, but their variations are so many that they cannot all be seen. There are only 5 basic flavors, but their variations are so many that they cannot all be tasted. There are only 2 kinds of charge in battle: the unorthodox surprise attack and the orthodox direct attack. But variations of the unorthodox and the orthodox are endless. The unorthodox and the orthodox give rise to each other, like a beginningless cycle. Who could exhaust them? When the speed of rushing water reaches the point where it can move boulders, this is the force of momentum. When the speed of a hawk is such that it can strike and kill, this is precision. So it is with skillful warriors. Their force is swift. Their precision is close. Their force is like drawing a catapult. Their precision is like releasing the trigger. Their force is swift in the sense that the force of the momentum of battle kills when it is released. That is why it is likened to a drawn catapult. Disorder arises from order. Cowardice arises from courage. Weakness arises from strength. What this means is that if you want to feign disorder so as to lead opponents on, first you must have complete order, for only then can you create artificial disorder. If you want to feign cowardice to spy on opponents, first you must be extremely brave, for only then can you act artificially timid. If you want to feign weakness to induce haughtiness in opponents, first you must be extremely strong, for only then can you pretend to be weak. Order and disorder are a matter of organization. Courage and cowardice are a matter of momentum. Strength and weakness are a matter of formation. When an army has the force of momentum, even the timid become brave. When it loses the force of momentum, even the brave become timid. Nothing is fixed in the laws of warfare. They develop based on momentum. Therefore, those who skillfully move opponents make formations that opponents are sure to follow, give what opponents are sure to take. They move opponents with the prospect of gain, waiting for them in ambush. Formations that opponents are sure to follow are formations that give the impression of exhaustion. Opponents are moved by the prospect of an advantage. Therefore, good warriors seek effectiveness in battle from the force of momentum, not from individual people. Therefore, they are able to choose people and let the force of momentum do its work. When you have the force of momentum in war, even the timid can be courageous. So it is possible to choose them for the capabilities and give them the appropriate responsibilities. The brave can fight, the careful can guard, the intelligent can communicate. No one is useless. Getting people to fight by letting the force of momentum work is like rolling logs and rocks. Logs and rocks are still when in a secure place, but roll on an incline. They remain stationary if square. They roll if round. Therefore, when people are skillfully led into battle, the momentum is like that of round rocks rolling down a high mountain. This is force. Roll rocks down a 10,000-foot mountain, and they cannot be stopped. This is because of the mountain, not the rocks. Get people to fight with the courage to win every time, and the strong and the weak unite. This is because of the momentum, not the individuals. Chapter 7. Armed Struggle. The ordinary rule for use of military force is for the military command to receive the orders from the civilian authorities, then to gather and mass the troops, quartering them together. Nothing is harder than armed struggle. To fight with people face to face over advantages is the hardest thing in the world. The difficulty of armed struggle is to make long distances near and make problems into advantages. While giving the appearance of being far away, you can step up your pace and get there before the opponent. Therefore, make your route a long one, luring them on in hopes of gain. When you set out after others and arrive before them, you know the strategy of making the distant near. You use a special squad to lure the opponent on a wild goose chase, making it seem as though your main force is far away. Then you send out a surprise attack force that gets there first, even though it sets out last. Therefore, armed struggle is considered profitable, and armed struggle is considered dangerous. For the skilled, it is profitable. For the unskilled, it is dangerous. To mobilize the whole army to struggle for advantage would take too long. Yet to struggle for advantage with a stripped-down army results in a lack of equipment. So if you travel light, not stopping day or night, doubling your usual pace, struggling for an advantage 100 miles away, your military leaders will be captured. Strong soldiers will get there first, the weary later on. As a rule, 1 in 10 make it. When the road is long, the people are weary. If their strength has been used up in travel, then they are worn out while their opponents are fresh, so they are sure to be attacked. Struggling for an advantage 50 miles away will thwart the forward leadership, and as a rule, only 50% of the soldiers make it. Struggle for an advantage 30 miles away, and 2 out of 3 get there. So an army perishes if it has no equipment, it perishes if it has no food, and it perishes if it has no money. These 3 things are necessary. You cannot fight to win with an unequipped army. So if you do not know the plans of your competitors, you cannot make informed alliances. Unless you know the mountains and forests, the defiles and impasses, and the lay of the marshes and swamps, you cannot maneuver with an armed force. Unless you use local guides, you cannot get the advantages of the land. Only when you know every detail of the lay of the land can you maneuver and contend. So a military force is established by deception, mobilized by gain, and adapted by division and combination. A military force is established by deception in the sense that you deceive enemies so that they do not know your real condition, and then can establish supremacy. It is mobilized by gain in the sense that it goes into action when it sees an advantage. Dividing and recombining is done to confuse opponents and observe how they react to you, so that then you can adapt in such a way as to seize victory. Therefore, when it moves swiftly, it is like the wind. When it goes slowly, it is like a forest. It is rapacious as fire, immovable as mountains. It is swift as the wind in that it comes without a trace and withdraws like lightning. It is like a forest in that it is orderly. It is rapacious as fire across a plain, not leaving a single blade of grass. It is immovable as a mountain when it garrisons. It is as hard to know as the dark. Its movement is like pealing thunder. To plunder a locality, divide up your troops. To expand your territory, divide the spoils. The rule for military operations is to feed off the enemy as much as possible. However, in localities where people do not have very much, it is necessary to divide up the troops into smaller groups to take what they need here and there, for only then will there be enough. As for dividing the spoils, this means it is necessary to divide up the troops to guard what has been gained, not letting enemies get it. Act after having made assessments. The one who first knows the measures of far and near wins. This is the rule of armed struggle. The first to move is the guest. The last to move is the host. The guest has it hard. The host has it easy. Far and near means travel. Fatigue, hunger, and cold arise from travel. An ancient book of military order says, "Words are not heard, so cymbals and drums are made. Owing to lack of visibility, banners and flags are made." Cymbals, drums, banners, and flags are used to focus and unify people's ears and eyes. Once people are unified, the brave cannot proceed alone. The timid cannot retreat alone. This is the rule for employing a group. To unify people's ears and eyes means to make people look and listen in concert so that they do not become confused and disorderly. Signals are used to indicate directions and prevent individuals from going off by themselves. So in night battles, you use many fires and drums. In daytime battles, you use many banners and flags, so as to manipulate people's ears and eyes. You use many signals to startle their perceptions and make them fear your awesome martial power. So you should take away the energy of their armies, and take away the heart of their generals. First, you must be capable of firmness in your own heart. Only then can you take away the heart of opposing generals. This is why tradition says that people of former times had the heart to take away hearts, and the ancient law of charioteers says that when the basic mind is firm, fresh energy is victorious. So morning energy is keen, midday energy slumps, evening energy recedes. Therefore those skilled in use of arms avoid the keen energy and strike the slumping and receding. These are those who master energy. Any weakling in the world will fight in a minute if he gets excited. But when it comes to actually taking up arms and seeking to do battle, this is being possessed by energy. When this energy wanes, they will stop, get frightened, and feel regret. The reason that armies look upon strong enemies the way they look at virgin girls is that their aggressiveness is being taken advantage of, as they are stirred up over something. Using order to deal with the disorderly, using calm to deal with the clamorous, is mastering the heart. Unless your heart is wide open and your mind is orderly, you cannot be expected to be able to adapt responsively without limit, dealing with events unerringly, facing great and unexpected difficulties without upset, calmly handling everything without confusion. Standing your ground, awaiting those far away, awaiting the weary in comfort, awaiting the hungry with full stomachs, is mastering strength. This is what is meant by getting others to come to you while avoiding being induced to go to others. Avoiding confrontation with orderly ranks and not attacking great formations is mastering adaptation. So the rule for military operations is not to face a high hill, and not to oppose those with their backs to a hill. This means that when opponents are on high ground, you shouldn't attack upward, and when they are charging downward, you shouldn't oppose them. Do not follow a feigned retreat. Do not attack crack troops. If opponents suddenly run away before your energy has faded, there are surely ambushes lying in wait to attack your forces. So, you should carefully restrain your officers from pursuit. Do not eat food for their soldiers. If the enemy suddenly abandon their food supplies, they should be tested first before eating, lest they be poisoned. Do not stop an army on its way home. Under these circumstances, an opponent will fight to the death. A surrounded army must be given a way out. Show them a way to life so that they will not be in the mood to fight to the death, and then you can take advantage of this to strike them. Do not press a desperate enemy. An exhausted animal will still fight, as a matter of natural law. These are the rules of military operations. Chapter 6. Emptiness and fullness. Those who are first on the battlefield and await the opponents are at ease. Those who are last on the battlefield and head into battle get worn out.
That's where I was recording. And there's a cool little bird's nest. Anyways, that's all. I love you guys. Bye-bye.